Support for Lab Out Loud is provided by NSTA, the National Science Teaching Association. Find out more about what NSTA has to offer at nsta.org. You're listening to Lab Out Loud, Science for the Classroom and beyond. And today we're talking about the challenges of teaching when we're all staying inside.
It's a really serious and stressful time right now. Kids really are struggling in a lot of ways with trying to understand what's happening in the world. And, you know, moms and dads don't really know because this is kind of new to us too. So if we can be a little fun and silly, but also, you know, educate on some level, then I think that's success.
That's up next on Lab Out Loud, but first I'm your co-host Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartel. Sorry there, I was a little mesmerized. You know that we record these in our basements, and I am looking out in the backyard before a big snow, and there's two cardinals, and the male cardinal just passed off a seed to the female cardinal. It was like a little cardinal kiss. Yeah.
It handed a seed off?
Yeah.
You know, even the cardinals understand that we're all in this together.
Social distancing, but only when you're in mating pairs, you know?
Social distancing doesn't pertain to birds, but maybe cats, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like they can get the coronavirus from what we've been seeing. It's all very preliminary, so it's hard to tell.
Well, some tiger got it, I guess.
Yes. In the Bronx.
Crazy.
In the Brooklyn Zoo, I think.
Yeah, the caretaker, yeah. That's... Who is less than 6 feet from a tiger? Ever. Except
Have you been watching Netflix?
No,
Dale?
I don't have Netflix. I've heard about this Tiger King thing.
I'm split on that. I've watched a couple episodes, and I've watched Tiger King a couple times, and there's things I was like, oh my word, this is amazing, but then there's other parts that I'm just not so fond of. But anyhow,
it would be fair that in these times we have to talk about Tiger King because apparently everybody else is too, and I hear the phrases, but I don't know what's going on. I'm focused on science, and
well, this is what the pandemic has brought us to, is watching something like the Tiger King. But anyhow,
you know what I have been watching though? So I tried out the Sling streaming service. They gave 2 weeks for free. I think it was Do the Right Thing, Stay Home, and Sling. And so they gave 2 weeks of quarantine testing it out. So I'm testing it out.
Can you watch Do the Right Thing movie at all?
No, no. But I have been binge watching Savage Builds, which is Adam Savage on his own show, just building crazy stuff. So there's good science in there. I highly recommend it. I think it is on the Science Channel.
Oh,
actually.
Interesting. You know what they need to do?
What?
I'd like to see Matthew Broderick do a little mini...
Just in general?
Well, no. Do like a little video instead of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He does Ferris Bueller's Day In.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pitching that to the world right now.
Yeah, that would be good. Exactly.
In any case, of course, we're talking about the pandemic and teaching and learning at home and occupying ourselves at home, right?
Yep. Well, we're not the only ones occupying ourselves, so we decided to contact a guest who's in similar situations like all of us.
My name is Joanne OMeara. I'm currently sitting in my bedroom because it is pretty much the only room in the house that I can shut the door to and try to keep the rest of the family members out for more than 30 seconds.
Joanne is a professor in the Department of Physics at the University of Guelph in Guelph, Ontario, Canada.
We actually discovered Joanne because she was featured in an article in Physics World entitled Physics in the Pandemic. Welcome to my new role as university professor, housekeeper, cafeteria lady, school teacher, ... I
like the cafeteria lady. Yeah, she is a physics professor, but like many of us, the pandemic has us taking on a lot more roles.
Yeah, so right now with the COVID-19 pandemic happening, the university has encouraged all non-essential workers to work from home, which obviously we qualify as. So my husband and I have been at home now with our kids this is the end of week 3. We have 2 girls. One is in grade 9 right now, and the other is in grade 3. So they've been off school as well for 3 weeks now. So we're all at home together and trying to work, trying to do some schoolwork, trying to get a little bit of physical activity and not go stir crazy like pretty much the rest of the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the same boat. Our kids are older. They're teenagers. I don't know if that's better or worse, but I
think it's worse. I don't know. Actually, I do hear about, people, the younger kids, they
I don't have to coordinate around nap time.
Yeah, you have to occupy, but I think it's hard on our teens.
Yes, for sure, and not having the social dynamic at school. It's funny because my two girls are very different personalities. Our older daughter, who is a teen, is not unhappy with the current situation. Honestly, she's not the most gregarious character, so she's not so upset about being home and hanging out. Our younger daughter is much more of an outgoing character, and she's definitely missing the friends in the schoolyard and the teachers and all of that activity.
Mm-hmm. How about schoolwork? Is that a challenge to keep up or stay motivated?
It has. So for our older daughter, who's in first year of high school here, she was given materials right before March break. So the first week of this 3 weeks was our March break. So they knew at that point that they were not going to be back for 3 weeks. So they gave them, my grade 9 daughter, quite a bit of work to do. But she's a quick worker, so she's already blown through pretty much all of that. So we've been trying to help her find ways to do things other than watch Netflix all day. Which has been a bit of a challenge. Our younger daughter is actually in French immersion, which means that most of her day at school is in French. My French is incredibly rusty, so it's been a little bit of a challenge that way to try and help her keep her language skills going through an extended period at home.
So she can swear at school now, and no one knows exactly if she's breaking the rules, right?
Well, the teachers know because they all speak great French.
Oh, okay. So what kind of distance learning options do they have?
So they really just started providing us with information this week. My younger daughter has been in touch with her teacher through Google Classroom on her device here. So we've gotten some. She had to listen to a story being read in French online, and then she'd find some words that she didn't understand and look them up. And she was also asked to comment on fill out a Google form just to sort of make sure that the lines of communications were working, I think. That's kind of been it so far. We happen to, both her parents are academics, so her unfortunate luck is that we were, trying to keep the education thing going anyway. And we happen to have a workbook in French for grade 3 that we had gotten for our older daughter when she was going from grade 2 to grade 3. So we had that at home. So we've been working through some of the units there. There was a unit on Pioneer Life that we worked through, and she's been doing some math. And then for science, we've been making some fun science videos that we've been sharing through our physics department YouTube channel.
Oh, nice. So her science education is part of helping to provide science education for the post-secondary students.
Exactly, and for elementary school students and secondary school students. So what we've been doing is, so our outreach group at Guelph, we do a lot of work with the local elementary school and high school community. And so normally during March break, we would have had a bunch of activities with local schools or kids who are out of school. And that all got put on hold. So a colleague of mine in the department who does a lot of the outreach activities, we decided that we'd try and throw some simple videos together at home to just try and, for one thing, keep us busy, but also to help the kids who are at home and maybe don't have parents at home who are super sciencey to try and stay engaged. So we call it Ask Me Anything Science Edition or AMASE. And we try and take a question from an elementary school or secondary school student and create a fun little video around it.
Okay.
So my daughter and I did one on the speed of light, measuring the speed of light in the kitchen, which anyone can do at home. My colleague just did one on Schrodinger's cat, which was a question from a grade 12 student in Guelph. And we've had one of our students did a video on rainbows. My daughter and I are working on one right now about how straws work. And we're going to do one as well on why you see stars when you bump your head. So we're just trying to have a little bit of fun and also, still talk a little bit about science.
Okay. So tell us about the making of the videos, because right now there's a lot of educators trying to consider, how do I give instruction to students in video format? So have you learned like some do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be short, really.
How short?
I think to be.
Tell me.
We're aiming less than 5 minutes, like 4 to 5, 6 minutes at most, kind of thing.
I like where you're going with that. Okay.
We're definitely trying to have some sort of activity that students can try at home. So, for example, the speed of light video that I did with my daughter, if you take some chocolate chips and you put them on a plate in the microwave in a way that the plate isn't rotating, so you sort of take the plate out, the rotating plate out, and chocolate chips in. If you microwave them just for a few seconds until they just start to melt,
the nodes.
See a pattern you see the nodes, and you can measure the wavelength. And then if you know the frequency, which you can get from the back of the microwave or the inside of the door, you can actually calculate the speed of light, and you can get it to a pretty good number. Like we measured 2.9 times 10 to the 8 meters per second, which is pretty darn close a bunch of chocolate chips on a plate in a microwave.
I used to do that lab too.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Since we're in the dairy state in Wisconsin, we used cheese.
Right.
Yeah, cheese, so we had to use the cheese for it. But yeah, it's actually it is kind of amazing how well it works.
It
really is quite amazing.
But we would recommend right now only using expired cheese, because we've been trying to convince our the teachers that we work with to not assign. And now, granted, this is an outreach thing, but we want to encourage teachers not to assign or basically work for students that would use up food that is in scarce supply right now. True.
So yes, we ate the melted chocolate, so
Perfect.
That's it was a win-win in the end. But so we're doing one on straws where explaining air pressure. So there's air pressure inside the straw, and you take the air out, and then that pushes the liquid up into the straw. And so we're going to play around with having my daughter Mara. We're going to time her using different sizes of straws and, a nice thick smoothie and see what we can find with. It's actually a game I play with my students in first year when we're talking about electrical circuits, because the straws can be a really nice analogy for resistors. So we have
Serious
a smoothie
parallel.
race in class where we have two students come down, and one of them has two straws, resistors in parallel, and one has two straws or resistors in series. And we have a little race as to who can finish their smoothie first. So it's kind of that same idea. We're not
I've done that one
going to
too.
talk about circuits. Yeah, they're great. So we're probably not going to talk about circuits with the video, because that would probably make it too long. But just having fun with straws, we'll probably tie it to elephants drinking water and astronauts on the space station and things like that. Tying it to things that kids are either fascinated by or have familiarity with, I think is really important.
Oh, yeah.
Having a hands-on component, I think, is really important. And just being fun and silly. It's a really serious and stressful time right now. Kids really are struggling in a lot of ways with trying to understand what's happening in the world. And, moms and dads don't really know, because this is kind of new to us too. So if we can be a little fun and silly, but also, educate on some level, then I think that's success.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've been working with teachers and helping them get some content out to help basically teach in a digital format or a distance learning format. And one of the I'm not trying to shame any teacher here, because I think that this was thrown upon us. If we were doing this correctly, we would have had a lot more time to prepare and get things ready. And so, yes, I know there's been a lot of talk about, do it poorly. But yeah, that's exactly it. But there's been a lot of what I've seen teachers try to do is put out exactly what they would have done in the classroom and try to do it in an online format. And then there's why aren't students engaged? And part of me says, well, maybe this is the time to take a moment to do some of those fun things, those amazing parts of science, and explain them. Like you said, what captivates students, what gets them thinking about the world around them.
Yeah, and I think there's so many examples around us that you can point to that it doesn't need to be, super esoteric and out there. Like, we don't need to go into black holes and cosmology. Like, that's great, but let's just talk about elephants drinking water with their trunks, or how to measure the speed of light in your microwave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think if anything's more apparent now is that we're not in the content, we're not in the information business, we're in the motivation business. And that's our primary goal, is to get kids to be even interested in clicking on what you're offering to help them learn. It's not about, getting it to them and getting it.
Recreating a lecture.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, everyone is stressed and everyone is very worried about what's happening, and parents are trying to keep their job going at home in this completely new environment. So if kids are feeling like they're having a whole bunch of stuff thrown at them and they don't want to do it, parents are feeling under the gun too, to try and keep their kids learning at the same time as trying to do their jobs. And it's really a very crazy time.
Sure.
We're trying to kind of think about, you get lots and lots of do-overs here. There are, everything's negotiable. Yes, you fell behind, or, you were lost, or things like that, but any time to just start over. And that's for the parents, that didn't work. And that's for the teachers. Mm-hmm. Now is the time, and the students, everybody gets a do-over, and just keep going back to, okay, let's start over. Let's look at this with fresh eyes and see where we can go from this moment, and kind of go from there.
It's interesting because when we work with teachers, Dale and I work with teachers and help them use technology, and they might try something new and they didn't really like I didn't anticipate that. I didn't like the results of that. And so sometimes they get cautious to not try it again. And I try to remind them, you continually remind students how to walk down the hall up through the last day of school even. So you're going to have to continue these things. And so one thing I've been seeing is they don't get a chance to say, no, I'm not going to do that again. They have to do it again. And so they're kind of forced to say, all right, how can I improve this now?
Yeah. It's one thing that this situation has made, is it's given us all time to do over. Do things
for
over
sure.
and
things never work the first time. I don't think they don't seem to for me. So I think it's really just a question of, we're all always learning. In your pedagogy as well as your content. There's things that work, and there's things that don't work, and there's things that work for some groups of students that don't work for other groups of students. Yeah. At least that's been my experience. So it's experimenting and seeing what happens. And that's definitely been my approach to teaching since I started. And I think the key is to be really honest with your students too, is to say, hey, I'm trying this. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm doing it because it's based on this evidence, and I'd like to be a better teacher. So I'm going to try this, and it might not work, but we'll all learn something from it.
What have you seen in the comparison and contrasting with your own children? Compare that to the students that are in post-secondary.
So, that's a really interesting question. So I think the post-secondary is such a different environment, because post-secondary students right now, so we were basically at the point where we had 3 weeks of classes left. So we were at a very different point.
Oh.
And the elementary school and the high school students who go until the end of June, we should have been ending classes today. Today, April 4th. But what our university decided to do, Yeah, what our university decided to do when this all sort of started to blow up was that we shut down for a week, which was our March break, the elementary school and high school students' March break week. The university just stopped for a week and said, we're not doing anything, no instruction. We're giving our staff a week to figure out how to finish the semester. And then we'll start up again with 3 more weeks. So we added an extra week onto the end. And every instructor was given as much leeway as possible in choosing the most appropriate path for their class. So, for example, I know in my husband's case, he was teaching a large first-year physics course this semester. They decided the course was very much designed to be a self-directed learning experience. Okay. Students are given a study guide at the beginning of the semester. It's broken up. The semester's broken up into like 8 units. There's lectures, but the lectures are sort of helping you work through the study guides. And then at the end of each section, there's a quiz, and you can get 3 attempts at each quiz until you've sort of demonstrated mastery, and you go on to the next unit. So because it was designed already as very much a self-directed learning course, they decided when there was 3 weeks left, there was basically 1 unit left in the semester, and then a week of review. They decided that they would continue with the self-directed, you know what you need to cover in the textbook, you follow your study guide. We provided online tutorial time with the TAs throughout the week, so if anyone wanted to ask questions on that unit, they knew where to go online, virtually. And then they decided in that course that there was not going to be a final exam, so the students would have the mark they have at this point in the semester, which works because we were basically almost at the end anyway. Yeah. But it's a very different thing for the elementary and secondary school students because, for the secondary school students, they just started their winter semester not that long ago, and they go until the end of June. So it's a really quite a different scenario for them.
Although I read something online, it was a Twitter post, and it was reminding teachers that this is probably a 3-month blip, at least at the moment, out of a 13-year career in education. And so Absolutely. We have to keep Absolutely. That in perspective, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was really, in the decision-making for this first-year course that my husband is teaching right now, it was, what is the ramifications of this? This is a first-year physics course taken by biology students. They're probably never going to take another physics course again. This isn't going to impact them in future courses. If they decide to do the study guide for the last unit, fantastic. If they don't, really, like you said, it's a blip. It's a bizarre, completely unparalleled scenario, and maybe they don't learn electrical circuits in the detail that we would like them to, but is that the end of the world? We
got some straws for that. Well, I mean, it is funny though, because I think about labs. Are there lab experiences online that are expected of students?
No. So we had labs, and they have to do a lab to sort of go, and they have to pass a lab in order to be able to go and attempt the quiz on that unit. I believe they had 1 lab left in the semester. So again, the decision was 1 out of 5 or 6 is probably not really anything to cause undue stress for the students who are now trying to figure out, do I have a summer job or don't I? Yeah. Where am I going? Am I going home or should I stay here? I mean, I think there's a lot of other stresses that they're focusing on, and trying to figure out a way to make them do an electrical circuit lab online.
Yeah.
Again, maybe not the biggest priority.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there is something like, for the students, that you would be like, gosh, I just wish the students could see this from our perspective? There's something that they're completely not seeing that you wish you could tell all the other students?
In terms of like how we're trying to cope with the situation?
Yeah, yes. Like how universities tries to like snap into place to solve this.
Yeah, I honestly, from the discussions I've had with students, which haven't been extensive because, as I said, I'm not teaching this semester. So I've had some, and my impression is that they're pretty generally appreciative of what everyone's been trying to do. But yeah, it's just a crazy time. I actually right now I'm supervising 2 fourth-year physics students who are trying to finish up their honors thesis project with me. So that's been my main interaction with students. Is I've been having we would normally have a weekly group meeting, research group meeting, and so we've been doing that on Zoom, and just seeing how they're doing, like, mentally, psychologically, even. Relative to how's the data coming? Is it making sense? That you need help in figuring out how to get that into a meaningful graph, or But it's also, where are you? Did you go home? Are you still in Guelph? Are you okay? How are you feeling? I think that's an important thing.
I think there's like a shockwave almost that goes with this too. So a change is made. It takes a while for. You almost need to put a pause in between. We announce the change. This is what's going to happen. And then you got to let everybody kind of let that sink in. I myself, I remember just going through it, the last 2 weeks, a roller coaster of emotions. And for me, so much is like trying to kind of prefetch what the next thing is going to be. Okay, how are we going to do this? And like coming to grips with just a constant changing timeline, or constant changing like future plans. I guess you did that your colleague did the uncertainty video. That would be a good connection there.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, everything's in the box right now.
Did they at least update the Schrodinger's cat with like a cat is in a box with the potential of infection from COVID-19?
Yeah, there you go.
No, but he really should have. Yeah, no, he has several cats, so he had a lot of fun with making that video.
Oh, I'm not sure the actual cats. Were there actual cats in the video?
He did it with actual cats and an actual cardboard box.
Podcast pause. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So
it's really great.
So now I'm asking this question because I have an answer in mind that I would like to address. But do you see any opportunities in this scenario for learning, or perhaps your students right now? Is there a silver lining?
I mean, I'm a glass half full kind of person naturally, so I think I tend to look for one. I would say that it's giving us all pause to examine how we do things, and maybe to boil down what we do to the core essence, because that's about all we can really legitimately expect of ourselves and our students. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to stop and think about how we do things, and are there ways that we can do them differently that might actually turn out to be better.
Well, good. I had a couple things in my mind about that question, and so one of them is just thinking about how I have a friend who is a geology professor in a nearby university, and he's been out collecting data, like stream flow data, things like that. So he's actually collecting data and making his students crunch that data later on. So his labs are basically him collecting it all and then them processing it. But one of the things that he's thinking of is like, this is a unique time for us to be thinking about what does are we going to see a significant difference in our environment because there's less cars driving, because there's less pollutants being chugged out from industries that are shut down at the moment. So that's one of the things that he's going to try to see if he can measure. So that I think is a fascinating thing there to think about.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, Joanne, thank you so much for your time here. I guess if you have any last minute thoughts or advice to teachers, science teachers especially in this time, what would it be?
Try to take it easy on yourself. I think, and yeah, just try and. I mean, teachers already do this, right? I mean, we're so committed to our students. We worry about them. We're trying to do the best by them. try and have a little fun and yeah, like, don't be too hard on yourself, because there is no, like you said, there's do-overs right now. Nobody's perfect, and you're not going to nail this crazy new approach perfectly the first time out, but it's always a learning experience.
Thank you so much. And thank your daughter for helping make those cool videos.
Yeah, it's been tons of fun. We're working on our script for the next one right now, so that'll be added to our YouTube channel in probably next week sometime. So yeah, it's a great diversion. It's a great fun project. My older daughter is our videographer as well, so she's involved too.
Excellent.
And she's,
Oh, wow.
yeah. She's not an on-camera person. She doesn't want that role.
Uh-huh.
But she's been great in providing the technical support. As a teenager, she knows all this technology inside and out way better than I do anyway. So,
well, that's
Sure.
actually an
That's
interesting
awesome.
point there, because we have students that, as you mentioned, they don't want to be on camera. So in this digital environment where they're being asked to step in front of a screen for hours on end, I think we have to consider that too. What is the value of synchronous communication to a teenager who doesn't want to be shown in front of a screen?
My kids don't want to be on screen.
yeah, it's the same with my older daughter. In all of the chats that she's in so far, the teachers have been totally fine with audio only, if that's what you would choose. So she's been doing that for sure. She has not been putting her camera on her laptop. She's just been doing audio. So I think that's an important point too, is to recognize that different approaches are going to work for different kids. And again, teachers know that. But yeah, she's been great in helping with the technical side of things. So,
Well, good.
Maybe we'll get like, I know like the movie industry is kind of on pause right now, and TV shows are, like all taping and stuff. But I'm wondering if we're going to get like at-home dramas created and whole series that will spring out of this, like.
you never know.
Today on 12
The
Oak
bump
Street.
the noise that happened in the basement.
Well, I got to be honest though. I've seen some really fascinating from my own children. Excuse me. I've seen some of the teachers that have produced some videos, and they're creative. I mean, it's amazing what boredom does. And so,
my daughter's humanities teacher is dressing up like in everything. So like one day she's Princess Leia, and then she's running around outside, and I'm like, she's gonna run out of characters.
Yeah.
or Halloween costumes are. Yeah, so.
She's making Admiral Akbar after a while with a bunch of paper.
That's fantastic.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Lab Out Loud. If you'd like to learn more about some of the things discussed in this episode or previous episodes, you can find show notes at our website, laboutloud.com. If you have a guest idea or a future topic that you'd like to see on Lab Out Loud, go to our contact page and send us a message. Also, you can subscribe to Lab Out Loud on your favorite podcasting app, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you like to find podcasts. While you're there, leave us a review and rating. Your input helps others find our show. Thanks again for listening.